I'm coming to you today from an undisclosed location, a blank wall with an air conditioner. Just make things a little more mysterious. Hey, we're talking about silent prayer. So where I want to go today is how silent prayer works for me in intercession. Now, intercession is when we're praying for other people. And the problem with intercession is very often it becomes like a shopping list. We've got a list of names and we tell God what we think he should do and you know, we beg and plead and do all that stuff. And that's sort of what intercession has become for a lot of people. When what we want happens, we call it an answered prayer. And when it doesn't happen, we wonder if there is a God. And I reckon that's a pretty poor way of interceding. Now, there are 1,000 ways to intercede. This is just one about silent prayer. Now, I have to confess, I didn't really find this as much in a book as I have out of my own experience of this. And I've found power in it in strange ways. So we come into the presence of God, we confess our sins, we come under the blood of Christ. We sit still, we meditate on our prayer word for a while, we become still. And we enter that place of peace, that zone where, I don't know, we're just a bit more attuned to the presence of God. What I find in myself is, best I can describe it, it's sort of like something rises up inside me and then just opens up. And it's like I am there, entirely open before God. All of me is there. All the good, the bad and the ugly, but also every connection. Now, I'm 64 years old, so that's a pretty big list. But from, you know, when I was in kindy and before, through to today, I have touched lives. And so all those connections in some way, in my mind anyway, still live. And so I sit there before God with every opportunity, every threat, every person, every event, just exposed to him. And it's like it's sort of, it's like it's just all there in the presence of God. Not crying out for attention, not yelling for anything, but just there. And the Spirit of God, who is very big, can come to me in this place and just cover the whole thing. And what I see in that form of intercession is that all of those connections are being held actively before God. It's a little bit like what Paul said, you know, what I will is that in every place holy hands are lifted. I always imagine those hands quite empty and just sort of holding everything. And so that's becoming for me a very powerful way of intercession. The things that I'm anxious about, the things that I'm worried about, things I would love to see a miracle for, the things that seem utterly intractable, just there before God because I'm there before God. And I don't go to those things to put words to it. I don't go to God and say, oh, look at that one. Or can you think about this bit? It's just all there. And it's like allowing God to choose the priorities. And just, I become some sort of priest where I'm just opening myself as the touch point in prayer where heaven can come and invade. So I hope that sort of makes sense, but just to sit in the presence of God with all of my life open to God and all of God's presence and power available to all of who I am and just allowing those linkages to happen. Now, my testimony is when I pray like that, and like I say, there are 1,000 other ways to intercede, but when I pray like that, I find unexpected things happen for people. I find myself with unexpected ideas. I find words coming out of my mouth that are smarter than I am. I find an opportunity will pop up. I find a resource will arise that I can give to someone. It's strange how, when you take your feet off the bottom and say, Jesus, this is all of what I'm connected to, and I want to connect it to you, it's amazing how the Lord seems to be able to get a hold of that and do something with it. And I find that's a very powerful thing. Now, tomorrow we'll talk about distractions in prayer because I find it very difficult just to sit in the presence of God, utterly open before Him. And I have to keep coming back. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But I hope that's some use. I'd suggest, obviously try this, but also make sure you've got someone that you can debrief with. Couldn't recommend strongly enough, go to ancientpaths.website, have a look at the stuff about fours, set up some peer mentoring for yourself and be the mentor for 3 other people. But somebody who knows what they're doing, it's good to talk to about this stuff because it's sort of different. It's not the way we normally pray. And my testimony, though, is it's a powerful, powerful thing. God bless, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.